Well, I entered the congregation in the year 1967, and I entered at the age of 18. I was always very impressed with the sisters who taught me because they were our community that I joined. They were really loving women and just brought out the best in my educational experience in my early years. They were always present at our ball games and in parish activities we did, and I always saw that joyful love of God. And so I, pondered in my own life. I was very attracted to that and how they were with people and mixed with families. And so, in a kind of a way, I think God was calling me in that direction. So I pursued my vocation, entering the congregation, as I said, in 1967. After I finished my Bachelor's of Arts degree, I started to teach. And I started in elementary grades. I started as a primary teacher first in the first grade. That was my student teaching. And then I was assigned to do second grade. My first teaching experience was in Bellflower, California. And it was wonderful. I loved the little kids, and I soon found that I just loved education. I loved to teach. I loved to be creative. I always went outside of the textbook as much as I could, even though I knew I had to follow a curriculum. I always had fun making creative experiences in the classroom. Stayed in primary grades for a while, then I moved up to intermediate grades, and then I became a principal at St. George's in Ontario. And from there I did another tour of principalship in St. Eugene's School in Santa Rosa. Some of my best experiences of ministry really has been in a classroom setting. In a sense, we had walls, but not walls. If I could go back and change anything, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I have no regrets. Any struggles or challenges that have come my way, by the grace of God, I've been able to handle those. And literally, if you can come 50 years in a particular avocation in life, mine, such as a religious woman committed to God, and have no regrets, I think that's a pretty wonderful gift.
I met my congregation maybe around 25 years ago in Mexico, maybe 30. Actually, 30 years ago in Mexico. And at the time, I was part of the youth group. And the first year that they came to Mexico, I observed them. And after this, I began to have a conversation with one of them, Sister Sue, about the possibility to enter in the congregation. By this time, I was 16 years old, and I told her about the idea about becoming a sister. And what most impressed me was she said, "Okay, it's very good. Do you have some plans for the future?" And I told her that yes, I was planning to go to college, and I was not sure if I wanted to be a social worker or a psychologist. And she said, "Sounds a very good idea." And the second question was, "Do you have a boyfriend?" And I say, "Not yet." "Okay, well, maybe you can have a boyfriend, and we will see what God has for you." And I said, oh wow, she doesn't want that I come to the convent tomorrow, But when the Sister Sue told me to wait and to see where God wants to call me, I thought, I like this. I like when God offers us different possibilities and is the invitation for a free will to us.
When I came to the convent, I had been a pretty good student in high school, in grammar school, high school, and I saw that the nuns taught us, and I really liked how they taught us, and they made things really interesting and fun and created a community at the school. So I just supposed I would teach because we did two things. We did healthcare, most people are nurses or you're teachers. So I figured, well, I'll be a teacher because I know how to do school. So I did that for about the first 10 years. I started teaching when I was 20. I enjoyed teaching. It was a good experience for me. I was really a very shy young woman, so to be able to get in front of a class and have to engineer that class and manage that class and get these kids learning, I had to come out of that shyness. So I taught for about 10 years. And then I was asked to study for a year and then to become the director of our elementary schools. At that time we had 26 schools up and down the coast of California and in Texas. I had gone to Mexico to study Spanish for a month. And that was a great experience. But when I came back, I just thought, I've got to do something. I've got to pay more attention to the Hispanic community because it was growing so fast. So I just started reading more, hanging around more, watching more. And I particularly started paying attention to the gang issues. So toward the end of my term in leadership, I asked for the okay to start a house in Santa Ana that was in the middle of a gang neighborhood and to invite 3 sisters to move there with me. You know, we're teachers, we're nurses, we all have good educations, we know how to manage things. We got to figure out, we can't solve the whole problem, but we got to do something. So that kind of occasion for me, the forming or the dreaming of a Taller San Jose, to say, well, let's start something that when these kids get out of jail, or when young women have 2 or 3 pregnancies before they're 19, what are they going to do? They're all holed up in their apartment, they've stopped learning, they're part of gang systems too. We need to create something that young people would really want to come to. Not we wanted them to come, but they would want to come to.
Well, when I first entered as a novice, a second-year novice, I went at one of our hostels to help out. And also as a junior profess, that means before final vows. Each year, as you know, we renew vows until we make final vows. I used to work in our hostels, which means I would help with the cooking, with the cleaning, and things like that. In those days, we didn't hire a lot of staff. That came much later. But then I got to go to Teachers College, and then I went teaching for, I think it was almost 9 years, until I came here to the United States the first time. I love the teaching. I think bring out the children, you know, the qualities that are in them, and the things that they were good or not quite as good, be able to challenge them in such a way that bring out the good in them, you know. Those are the things that stand out in my mind. It was the teaching, and now especially, and the 17 odd years I've been here, I've always been in healthcare. So, and I do love it. That speaks very much to my heart, it's the healthcare.